And we are here today with Ronna Cuca, who is an expert and who's been working with mindful eating for the last 30 years, who can help us find out how we can take care of ourselves emotionally beyond food. But before giving the word to Ronna, I would like to tell you a little bit more about her. Ronna is PhD on psychology, and she's a former board member of the Center for Mindful Eating. She's the author of Zen of Eating and Who by Water, Reflections on a Tsunami Psychologist. She's a former psychologist to Weight Watchers International, where she has helped develop their behavior weight management program. She's currently in a private practice and works remotely with clients all around the world. And she lives in Berkeley, California. Thank you so much, Ronna, for being here with us today.
I'm thrilled, and happy Mindful Eating Celebration Day to everybody across the world. And, you know, the first thing I want to say is part of compassionate self-care, you know, for that kind of emptiness in our heart that often drives mindless eating, is just the gratitude that we even have food. It's really extraordinary when so many people are plunged in physical hunger who don't have the luxury to be worrying about heart hungers, that we can all feel that much more sated by knowing that we do have access to clean, healthy food, and that deserves a huge day of celebration just in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
So probably one of the most important distinctions that needs to be made in the area of eating and emotional self-care is that physical food, you know, comes and goes. It is not meant to sustain any kind of satisfaction. It can't, right? You eat it and we eliminate it. We eat it, there's a moment of pleasure, and we eliminate it. And yet there's this kind of delusion that when we eat something that somehow it's going to do the trick. It's going to completely satisfy us. It's going to make us feel that longing for contentment is going to be, you know, mollified. It's going to finally end. But kind of like the joke's on us. It can never satisfy our physical hunger can never be satisfied. We always need to eat again. But the good, that's the downside of physical hunger. The good side of emotional hunger is that it could last. When you develop a compassionate lifestyle and you know how to forgive, and don't forget, forgiveness means it's a form of generosity, and you can see the world with a soft heart, and including your own secrets and sorrows, which has its own storyline, but actually, you know, everybody has their secrets and sorrows with a different storyline. Then you begin to feel a kind of nourishment that no amount of physical food could ever satisfy, because physical food is not meant to satisfy. Okay, there's no point where we could say, I'm full or I'm hungry, because they're born out of each other. It's like saying life and death, they're two sides of the same coin. So when we say I'm full, that's the beginning of hunger. When we say I'm hungry, that's the beginning of fullness. So physical fullness has a very, very limited capacity. That doesn't mean we can't enjoy our food, appreciate our food, look forward to it, but we have to see it through realistic eyes. Because if we rely on food for, you know, emotional fulfillment, it's like a setup. It can't work. It's like throwing the dice completely in the wrong table. It just doesn't, the gamble is you're destined to lose. But the practices of really forgiving your body, forgiving your appetite, forgiving that roar inside of you that just wants, that needs, that hurts, and trying to settle down that hurt or horror, whatever you're going through, with some gentle kindness, you realize it's like rain in a bucket. It's every time you offer yourself compassion, your ability to sit with suffering rather than eat it. You realize the taste of compassion, the taste of kindness, the taste of forgiveness, really is much better than any kind of food you'll ever eat. Mm. Now, this may sound very far-fetched because you said, well, what does kindness taste like? Well, you could ask yourself, to really reflect on a kind thing that you've done or that someone's done to you when you've been hurting, and just recall, the taste of how good that feels and how light it feels. When somebody helps you or you help yourself reduce suffering, literally, it's like the weight off your body. And so many people say that they'll talk to me or say I talk to my friend and I talk something through and I felt like I lost weight. And I'll say, well, why do you think that's so? Because, the heaviness of our emotions are much heavier than the weight on our bodies. The weight on our heart is much heavier than the weight on our bodies. So the question is, or the challenge is, through mindful eating practices and through the wisdom of all the great religions, gives us these tools that are like enzymes. Compassion is an enzyme, or loving kindness is an enzyme to break down that feeling of self-hatred, that feeling of body self-hatred, right? It's like an elixir. It's like crushing and defeating that war that we have with each other, with ourselves, within, and allowing some freedom and lightness to come into our heart by being generous, by being forgiving, by being compassionate. What does it mean to be compassionate, by the way? It means that how are we with suffering? Most of us are really lousy at suffering because we just want to get rid of it. So if there's donuts or if there's, cake or if there's, another portion of something, we'll eat it. But again, that numbness works, but we have to ask ourselves for how long. So we have to rely on ancient answers and ancient tools and ancient strategies to help build that kind of chemical catalyst within that will help reduce and kind of uproot the burden of self-hatred and the burden of isolation and the burden of loneliness, the burden of me, the belief that, we are boxed off with our own appetite and our own secrets and sorrows and our own hunger. Well, it's actually part of the human condition, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
What do we have in common? Everybody's tears are salty. Everybody's blood is red. Everyone's going to die. Everybody we meet, we're going to part with. These are truths of life. Just like the truth of life is, physical food cannot satisfy us. But there are things that can satisfy us like no amount of food could offer. And those are the tools of compassion. Just, may I be free from suffering? May I recognize my suffering? May I taste it? So often we want to spit it out instead of just allowing it to work itself through our system. And I've certainly experienced it with my own suffering, and I've experienced it with many people in many different continents. It's not unique, to Westerners, but just the idea of when you relax into your suffering, into the feeling of suffering, it actually gives you a sense of fullness because you're not stuck here, trying to spit it out or not swallowing it. It's just let it pervade you. Let the worst thing that you can imagine happen.
That's very right. Thank you. Thank you, Ronna, for sharing with us. All of us, I definitely can very much relate to that taste of what you mentioned, the kindness. And even more the kindness towards ourselves.
Yes, it's a very sweet taste.
It
It's very
is very
sweet.
sweet. Yeah, unique as well. Rona, is there anything you would like to share with us that you've learned in your path, in your own path as a human being, when related to yourself or your emotions with kindness?
Yes, I think that, the older I get, and the more I practice, the more I realize that kindness is really it's like a currency. It's like the universal money kind of thing. It's we're all rich with kindness. We're all wealthy because we all have the capacity within ourselves and to give it. It's not like you lend it. It's like you can give it and you get richer. It's just, and then I see that everybody loves it. There's nobody who says, "Oh, don't be kind to me." Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's such a sweet feeling, and that the older I get and the more I taste kindness, the more I want to share it, and then the more it gets shared back with me. And so there's this bank account that just keeps accumulating with kindness and friendliness. And that doesn't mean my world hardly, doesn't have its, disappointments and sorrows and, irritations and anger and criticisms and all that stuff. But I could be a lot more relaxed about it. I can be more relaxed about it. And that's really the results of valuing the taste of kindness and the sweetness of it and the generosity. Is there a price on being kind to somebody? Could you, there isn't. I mean, what could you pay?
Well, actually, you get paid back.
Exactly. So it's just a win-win situation, but it's hard because the food has this immediate, like, numbing effect, or, addictive, like, endorphin rush. But it always ends. And then we're back to where we started, or worse. And so kindness is just, it's like you just keep building it and building the foundation, and it gets sweeter and sweeter, and you want to give more, and then you get more, and it's just the currency just keeps building, and it's very, very sweet. And I'm very grateful to my teachers, to all of my meditation teachers, all in all traditions, by the way. There's so many things we can learn about mindful eating from every tradition, just from even blessing our food. I did a group on mindful eating a number of years ago, where I asked people to go into fast food restaurants, and it's very fashionable to be critical of fast food restaurants, right?
Yes.
They're full of sugar, they're full of, high fructose corn syrup, they're just, loaded with all these, fillers, etc., cruelty to animals. I said, just go in there and just walk in, take a seat, and just observe the scene of a fast food restaurant with kindness in your heart. And it was one of the most interesting exercises, because they had to, like, really work through their judgment. These people were wasting their money, and they were giving their kids bad nutrition. But the fact is, it was food. They were doing the best they can. And who knows, maybe from that energy that they got from that fast food restaurant helped them save a life. Who knows? We don't know.
We don't know. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And, happy Mindful Eating Day to you and to everybody who's listening. I'm delighted to be part of TCME, and we're a big part of that.
We're delighted to have you as well in TCME. It's such a pleasure to conduct together with you your webinars. So if you want to know more about Dr. Ronna Cuca, you can either write to us at TCME in info@tcme.org, or you can write down to her at Dr. Ronna with double N at
DRRONNA at Gmail.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ronna. It was a pleasure, like always.
Okay, thank you.